eat it out, and she would do that. And as she grew older, she recognized what a big mistake she had made with her own son. And now you should see her with her grandchildren. It's like day and night. Her own children. So I said, Mom, you never treated us that way. You know, what happened? She said, I just grew. I knew a better way, and that's what I'm doing with the grandchildren. And so many times, what we didn't do with our own children, we could pass on to the grandchildren. And so this afternoon, as Cynthia and I share with you some ideas and our own experience, we hope that you will find in it hope and light for your own family. So Cynthia, come please. We put two chairs because we don't want it to be like we're preaching, but we're just talking to us with each other. Hello.
Happy Sabbath. Happy day. I like that, so I try to get it into my system. I like how it sounds.
Okay. This is Cynthia. We've been married for 38 years, and we have 3 grown children. And what we wanted to do this afternoon was dialogue on our experience and share what we have learned over the years and what she has learned as a teacher. And even if I say so, I think she's one of the best teachers I know, right? And I keep telling her, you need to write a book. People need to have this wisdom of yours, you know. So today, you're getting a chance to have some of her wisdom. And so Cynthia, what do you think we got right? Give me in a basic sense, what do you think are some of the things we got right when it came to our children?
Well, some of the things I think we got right was being consistent in whatever we told the children we would do and whatever we discussed that we would do with them. Also spending a lot of time with them. They didn't get a chance to go to a lot of like piano lessons and all of that, but spending time, I remember even when I came home tired from work, I would spend that time reading to them and spending that time with them, you know, and those are some of the things.
One of the things that, as I look back now, I see it was a great decision, even though when I made the decision, it probably was not coming from a really wide space, was to have no TV. Because I believe back then having TV, remember when we used to talk about TV as an evil thing, you shouldn't have any TV? So I remember we had no TV. For the first 10 years of our marriage, we had no TV. And I think that allowed us to spend a lot of time together. We have worship in the afternoon, we would read, we would play with them. And I think we bonded a lot during that time because TV could really destroy family time.
And the reason we got TV too is because my husband's brother gave us a second-hand TV that couldn't even really work. But my son, I remember taking foil paper with the antenna. You know, TVs had antenna then. So he would put foil paper on the antenna, and that's how we got to see some basic shows, right? But the thing is, even with the TV, we wouldn't leave them in front of the TV, but we just had we use TV for family time. So we'll choose a show, or we'll go to the library, get some videos,
yes,
and we'll watch it together as a family.
And sometimes we would have a TV fast. Oh, they never liked it. The kids never liked it. Where, like, for sometimes a month, there would be no TV. So we could have time as a family. I think that was one of the great decisions we made, even though we didn't realize at the time how great that was, being able to spend time together.
But then and then also you were into music. So, well, I used to sing too in the choir and in different groups. And so when we had children, we wanted them to start a family group, a family singing group. So whenever my husband had to go and preach, the family would sing.
And that was always a good thing. Sometimes practicing with the kids was nerve-wracking.
True.
When they didn't want to practice, they didn't want to sing, and I would be getting a little flustered. So I have to admit, that didn't go as smoothly, but at least, even now, as a family, we sing, and we love to sing together.
No, I was going to say we even decided at one time to try the Jackson 5 Father Metal. But then we decided against it, you know.
Yeah. I didn't have the heart for that. But these were some of the things I believe we did right. Like Sabbath Special, remember that?
Sabbath Special. Sabbath Special would be like on Sabbath.
Friday night, for instance.
Yeah, Friday night. The children would, they would plan the Sabbath service. So they will do a play, they would do a story, whatever, pick up the song service for worship. And then the special would be that they get to sleep. I know this is not part of your culture. It's not even part of my culture. But we would allow the children to camp out in our bedroom once in a while as a Sabbath special. Sleep in the bedroom.
Yeah, with their little sheet and like a tent, and they just love that.
I'm seeing your face, but as I said, I know it's not your culture, and it's not ours from the Caribbean either, right? But that's what we do as a Sabbath special, and they looked forward for when they could come in. We call it a camp night. It's like when you go camping and you stay in a tent, right? So we call it like a camp out night, and they'll come in the bedroom, sleep on the floor, right? And just spending that night with us was really special to them.
And the Sabbath meal would be something special as well.
Yeah.
You know, it's amazing that even though the kids are all adults and grown, we still cherish those memories. They cherish it, we cherish it. We always love to be together. I think you have to adapt. The point is, it's not our culture, but you have to adapt. And we felt that was a good way to build, bond and get up on a Sabbath morning, and we'll walk with them early in the morning up the street. There was like a plantation. We would go through that. Sometime in the afternoon, we would go to the park and spend time. Yeah. These are memories that we, even as adults, cherish. So what I'm saying is, in this world, it is so busy here in America, and Sabbath was meant to be a family day. Did you hear me?
Yes.
Sabbath was meant to be a family day, and so many times on Sabbath, we are not spending time with the family. So I'm suggesting, even when I pastored, we had one Sabbath a month was Sabbath special. Yeah. No, family Sabbath, where we would encourage families in the afternoon. There would be no afternoon service or whatever, to just take your family out.
In the park
or to visit.
In nature, visit.
Or to visit a sick and shut-in, somewhere as a family, to enjoy togetherness.
Yeah, and they enjoy that, visiting shut-ins, and we just sing for them, and they'll do the scripture. And so, yeah, at least once a month, we will do that together as a family, visit people who are sick.
And being on the same page, I mentioned it this morning, but I want you to give your perspective of it, because I give my side about us being on the same page.
Yeah, I found that very important, being on the same page, because it confuses children when you're not on the same page, and especially if you're doing that in front of the children. And one parent saying something, the other parent saying something else. And I know we as a child, we did that. It was 6 of us, and when we wanted to go and do something, we'll ask my mom, and if she said no, we'll go behind her back and ask my dad, and he would say yes, right? So when we're getting dressed, so mom doesn't know dad said yes, and we get dressed, and where you all going? Well, dad tell us we could go. You know, daddy said we could go. And so that was like a whole thing. So learning from that I told myself when I have my children, my husband and I would have to be on the same page with training. And if it comes up that he's saying something different from me, then I wouldn't say anything in front of the children to make them know, right? That we are not on the same page, but I'll tell him afterward.
And the reason that worked is because there was no resentment. We knew that raising the children was a joint effort. I didn't want them to love me more than her. She wasn't fighting for their love against me. We knew that this is our children and we needed to be united to give them a sense of stability. In fact, this has become my default method since then and now. Dad, what did your mom say? Go ask your mom. And when she went to her, what did your dad say? That was an automatic thing to avoid what happened with your mom and dad. Yeah. That Cynthia said yes and I said no, or vice versa. What did your mom say? And then if they said, we've been asking her, I said, well, let me talk to her. And I will speak to Cynthia and we will discuss it. Sometimes we didn't have a chance to talk. But if I made a decision and she didn't like it, or she thought it wasn't the wise thing, she would call me aside and tell me. She might let me go ahead with it, but later on, let me know why she felt it was wrong.
Yeah, do not underestimate children, because they do that in school too. In the child care center where I work, they do that too. They'll go and ask the teacher something when they want something. When I already told them that they couldn't have it, they go to another teacher who didn't know they couldn't have it to get it. And these children are 2 and 3, and they would play our head like that. So they are not to be underestimated.
What did you say we got wrong? I mean, everybody makes mistakes. When you look back, what do you think we could have done better?
Well, one thing that comes foremost in my mind is that, and it's gone out of my mind. Yeah, but one thing is that we shelter them too much. I think I shelter them, we shelter them, because we were going through a lot of hardship, especially when we came to this country, like a lot of hardship. And so there was even one time when we moved from, we moved from New York to Georgia. Right? And we had no furniture at all, but we would have a box, and they were little. We would have a box as a table, and we had to sit on the floor around that box and eat on the box, but they never knew that we were going through any kind of hardship because we made it fun, right? So they thought, well, it's just a fun thing that we were doing. And even with a lot of things, we just kind of sheltered them, so they didn't know we were going through any kind of hardship at all. It's after they grew older, they realized, wait, we were really poor, but a lot of people thought we were rich, I remember them saying when they got older, teenagers, that children would say, oh, so you all leave your Benz and your nice car home to come to church with that car, But no, it's just we couldn't even afford a good car. So, but children, their friends thought that we had our Mercedes Benz home or something, and we just driving the old car to church, but that wasn't the case. But I think sheltering them was not a good thing, that they should have known a lot of times that we were going through really rough periods.
But when that
Cassie, I say no, she didn't want to know.
When that have created anxiety in them, maybe, I guess Cassie's response says it all,
I guess it depends on the way you do it. I don't think so, because sometimes they just grow up thinking that everything is easy to get,
What in terms of the sheltering, I think not letting them see us work through a crisis, work through a problem, to know that we are human beings with emotions and we didn't always agree. Because they thought we never had a quarrel. They thought we never disagreed. And that impacted their own relationships, because when they would be disagreeing with their spouses, they were thinking, well, is this real? Is there really love here? Because mom and dad didn't. So I think if they had seen us work through issues, they would have helped them work through issues among themselves and as adults, and give them the tools to
but
do
we
that.
thought too that having family meetings would take care of a lot of things. So we always had family meetings at least twice a month. So the children had they were able to like voice their opinions and their choices and voice what they think wasn't going right in the family. So we had those, apart from worship, we had those family meetings where we'll come together and ask them what's going on in their own lives, you know, and what they think that we could do better as a family. So I know, I thought that would take care of everything, but then we had our what do you call it? A marriage?
Renewal vows.
Right. Marriage, we had renewal of vows, right? Because the first time we got married, my bouquet was like some flowers picked from a tree. Because, yeah, because the person who was supposed to do the bouquet didn't do a good job, and I could hardly hold it. So we had to go and look for things from a tree and try to put a stem, whatever. But so with the renewal, my daughter made sure that I had a beautiful bouquet, right? But then when it was time for the speech and stuff, they all said that they never heard us quarrel. And I'm like, wow, that is true. But a lot of times we talked about things in private. Like in the bedroom, we discussed certain things. If I didn't like what my husband did or he didn't like what I did, we discussed it in the bedroom and not in front of them, or blew up in front of them or anything like. But we never really blew up at anything.
No, we
right?
never did.
We tried to talk our things civilly, right?
Never see your children fight, like, that way, but to work through a problem. Especially those of you who have grandchildren or children like 8, 9, and that age, let them see you sit and talk things through. It'll give them great tools. Also, let them know you're human beings. I know you were saying that there's something that sometimes we should let children know if you're sick, if you're tired.
Yeah.
You mind sharing that?
No, I said that, and not maybe with our family, but more in school. And it doesn't really always work because going into the classroom, you're not feeling well, and you're really tired, you're sick. And you tell the children, look, I'm not feeling so well today, so please, behave yourselves, sit quietly, whatever, so I could teach. And they just take advantage of that. So that's the day they decide that they're not going to listen, they're going to give you a hard time. So, but a lot of times, I think with your own children, if you let them, how you just hide everything, you might be sick and you're doing everything still. Just let them know you're not feeling well and to help you out.
So what about financially? Should you let the children know if things are tight financially? So maybe that's why they can't get the new iPhone they wanted or the new Nike sneakers.
Yeah. I think you should tell them. Yeah, I think you should tell the children if you can't afford something, you can't afford it, not just, buying it on your credit card and you don't have the money there, or you have other bills that you have to see about just to satisfy them when they want something. You should tell them that you don't have money to buy what they want, but they could get this instead of that,
I believe that I never was one to just spank widely, right? I believe spanking should be done with control, where you talk to the child, let them know why. And in my case, I would tell them how many strokes they're going to get.
Which they never liked.
They never liked that. Like you'll get 3 or 4. But I still think, even as I look back now, perhaps it was a tool that I used too much. I mean, my daughter is here, and maybe she will correct me when I leave if she said yes or not. And she would tell me, she and her sister, one day they held me in a corner to tell me all the things that Donna wasn't as good, and I was defending myself. And they were saying, Dad, we're not saying you were not a good parent. We're just simply telling you these were some of the mistakes that you made. And for me, a sister white father, you read Adventist Home and all the books and you try to do the best. It was a bit painful, but yet it was good to know that my children felt they could talk to me and share with me, and for me to acknowledge certain things. So yes, I believe spanking is useful, But like I said this morning, and I'm going to say it again, it should not be your first tool, your most used tool. Spanking should be that thing the children dread. And if you have to spank them, they should know I really messed up. Never let it get to the place where your spanking becomes ineffective, because especially if that's your major tool.
But what do you spank for? What things do you hit a child for any little thing that aggravates you? When should you spank?
No, did you hear what my wife just said? What word did she use there that should be a key word that should flash a red light? She used the word. Let me hear that. Aggravate. That is the key right there. You should never discipline a child, much less spank a child, because they aggravate you. That loses the message of what you're seeking to do. And sadly, every parent in this room has done it before. I tried not to, have beaten a child or punished a child because you were aggravated, not necessarily because of what the kid did.
Right.
Incidentally, if you have questions at any point, just raise your hand. We will take it. So we're going to be talking together, but we want you to know that you're free to ask questions, especially if we say something that doesn't ring a bell, that you don't resonate with, that you want to clarify.
And I use the word aggravate because, I hardly spank probably twice or 3 times,
That is true, Kezia?
Well, you see, I hardly did any spanking, but one day I got really upset, and I picked up a bat. I don't know if they remember that. All 3 of them were in the hallway, and it's because I was, tired. So my husband was here in the United States, and I was back home with the 3 children, and I was working far away from home. So I was, really overwhelmed with everything. So I can't even remember what they did, but I picked up a bat. I didn't hit them with it, but I to them that, I did that with them, and when I saw their faces, the 3 of them, they backed away with their eyes open because they had never seen me done anything like that. I knew I needed help because, I was probably breaking down with the taking care of them and going to work and all of that. So when I say help, I had a neighbor who was always willing to help me, but I always felt like, I could do it all by myself. So I never really accepted her help, but then I had to accept her help eventually. But I was going to say something.
They got so scared.
Oh, yeah. So I could see aggravation because in all my years of teaching and early childhood education, this is the first time, I don't know what it is with children these days, but I have never seen children behave how they are behaving right now, right? So all my years, and I've been in early childhood before, and then I went to high school, special ed, and back to early childhood for the last 10 years. And so I have some 3-year-old in the preschool, and they test me to the limit. And I said, Cynthia, it's time to leave this job. It's time before you just pick up somebody, hurt a child,
So it's I get aggravated.
Well, really aggravated. And I could see, you read these stories about parents and what they did to their children and whatever. I could see how a parent could get to that if they don't have self-control.
Which is why we need supportive systems. There was a group we once belonged to called Families Forever. And this could be a good plug for this church. All the younger couples with children who was maybe at the time, let's say 4 downwards, because these kids grew up together. They would get together once a month and have lunch and talk and about parenting challenges they had. They were very supportive, so that you could easily ask one of the parents to send your kids by them for a night or weekend so that you could get a break. And it created a bond among the children and among the adults. And I'm suggesting, as you said, that if you realize that you begin to get very aggravated with the kids, you're losing your patience, you're on a short fuse, it may mean you're becoming overwhelmed. And it's easy to be overwhelmed in a society like America, where you're both working, you have to come home and cook, and then the kids come home, and kids when they reach home, put it this way, when you and I were young, and I'm sure back in Kenya, most of us walked to school. How many of us walked to school? And usually it was a good distance. How many of us, we played outdoors?
All of us.
Climbed trees. All right. Many times, tell me this, when you got home sometime at night, were you just ready to plop down as a kid? Were you tired? Sometimes we were so tired, my mom would tell us go wash our feet from the dirt. And sometimes we would be so tired, we'll use spit and try to, and then, and then it would swell up the dirt and we'll get licks. But the point is this, kids burnt a lot of energy walking to school, playing. So when you got home, you really just wanted to rest. Our kids today, they drive from home to school. Most of us have cars. We drive everywhere. When they come home, where are they? Outside? Indoors with a video game. Do you know what that means? All that pent-up energy is why we run on the chairs and they jump on the bed and they like crazy. Too much pent-up energy. And you have just worked a full shift coming home. It's tough. So if you find yourself feeling overwhelmed, don't be ashamed. Find a friend. Find someone. Ask for help. Especially if the grandparents are around, ask for help.
Yeah, to keep them for a while. I was saying, these are, 3-year-old, and I don't know if it's because of COVID and all the anxiety that was going on at that time, and then the mask and all of that, that these children are like completely different, And so a lot of times I have to really pray harder than I used to pray before. Just the courage and the strength, and and it's not all the children, it's just, and it's the family too, because I saw your hand, I saw your hand, Pastor, 1 minute. So I can see too why they are like that too, and it's not all of them, I said, it's just a few, because sometimes when you explain to the parents what is going on with the child, they're like, oh, so you did that, and then they give them a kiss or they give them a hug, and I'm like, okay, that's why. There's no discipline, no correction, no nothing. So, okay. He's like that because of the drums. Yeah? Yeah, no, he can't play. Yeah, it's not his, right? It's not your mom's, it's not your dad's. And it's not your grandparents' drums.
And we are talking right now.
Yeah.
But he's been behind it all because he loves the drums. He has one at home. And that's a whole story. But again.
So that's what I'm saying. So it depends on the parenting as well.
Hold on. I think Pastor had his hand up first. And then.
Yeah. Could it be, Sister Allsop, that also food or diet has something to do with it? That the children have become very unsettled?
Yeah.
And the other part of the statement is that we come from a community where the African man is the king. Whatever he says goes. But you find that because many of them worked in town or different places, they didn't have time to bond with their children. The mother bonded with the children. If they need anything, they go through mom to get something from dad. Now, the ripple effect of the problem that has developed from that as he gets older, because he has not developed attachment with the children, the mother is more closer to the children. And sometimes maybe the monies that the mothers used to give the children came from dad, but never told the children. I have not worked, I'm a homemaker, but all the monies that you got for all these things come from your dad. So in the children, the young people's mind, the only person who love me in this family system is my mother. So you're finding that now we find the mothers, the children, kids, and the grandmother wants to babysit, make sure they see the grandchildren, and sometimes daddy is left by himself.
But what you said about the food is right, because I see those children coming in with breakfast, those little muffin, first ingredient is sugar. First ingredient is sugar, and those little mini muffins, that's what they get for breakfast. And so, yeah, their diet is not right. So we cook for them, and we try to provide, you want to come and sit? We try to provide healthy food for the children, but yes, Pastor, their diet is part of it.
And take this to the bank, parents, grandparents. Everybody needs a break, especially in this society. A break could be a Saturday evening, a Thursday afternoon. And therefore, couples, younger couples, find a couple that you have a good relationship with here at church and create that relationship where you could give each other a break. Where I could leave my kids with you one afternoon, and my wife and I go out, and next time you leave your kid with us. And if you're grandparents here, don't wait for your children to ask you always. Sometimes just offer to keep the kids so that they can have a break. Having a break allows parents to keep loving and training their kids without getting aggravated. So that's important. I think I saw a hand somewhere else. Okay.
I don't know whether I've forgotten what I wanted to say. That I want to recapitulate from the onset where you pray for. I mean, have time that you can pray, and then have, what was that? A camp? Is it a camp out or
Right.
a time that you can have them to be free? I mean, when you are in the camp, you are giving somebody a chance to do what they want to do, to be free, but you are together. That means like it is a controlled camp out, that you are in the same place, but you are yourself so free. It has disappeared, but I think I will correct and come with it.
Yes.
Where's the food?
The truth is, yes, our dad isn't helping. And I have been, part of my work with families has been to ask parents, what are you feeding your kids? Children need good food, if not the brain is inflamed. Sugar ignites and inflames a child's, it gives them too much energy, they bounce off the walls even. And most of what we give our kids, sodas and Pop-Tarts and stuff, even some of these cereals, Cheerios and stuff, we give them it too often. They're not really as healthy as they should be. We have to admit that in America we have an abundance of food, but it's not the best quality food. And I'll tell you how I learned that, my brother. I went to Africa about 15 years ago. We were in Tanzania at the time. And man, I ate like I have not eaten before. Because you guys share food, right? It was like this. After we preached, I mean night, midday, morning. And I lost weight. When I came back to America, I had actually lost a couple pounds. I found that weird because in America, I only ate 2 meals a day. And I tried, at the time especially, I was more strict. But I was eating in Africa. I was eating, you hear me? And I said, but this is weird. And I realized why. The food there was more natural without all this preservative and all of that. So my body used what it needed. And I'm going to say something, not to freak you out, but my stool in the bathroom, was like, your body was using and kicking it out. Right? So here in America, it's different. I put on weight so readily. Have you noticed how many people here are obese? When I was in Tanzania, I must have seen about 5 fat people. And I'm talking about old people walking up mountains with stuff on their head. And I didn't see no sort of big, fat, overweight people. The last time I went to Kenya, though, because I see I have KFC there and McDonald's, I've noticed people have started to kind of spread more than normal. I guess what I'm saying is what you eat. Because food is the fuel for your brain to think. And if you're not giving your brain the kind of quality food, the kids, their natures will be inflamed. So that's definitely a case. Now, in terms of the camping and stuff, children need to have space to run and burn out energy. Part of childhood is to run and burn out energy. So if you have a child in an apartment day and night, they're bouncing off the walls in their minds and they're going to make you bounce off the wall. So as parents, maybe pastor, like on a Sabbath in the summer, then I hope I'm not causing trouble. Encourage people some after church in the morning, go out in the park, walk with the kids, spend time with the children other than just in the house in work so that they have a chance to play and have fun. In the long run, as a family, you'll be happier. So Cynthia has a few things she'd like to share with us together because, like I said, she has great experience as a teacher, but even as a mother, she showed qualities of a good mother. She was patient, she was kind. I was the one who would bring the big guns, as she said. They can't even remember being spanked by her. But again, it wasn't like, come here. I would talk to the kids, I would pray with them, and one of my daughters said, she said, Dad, I don't like this thing, just beat us and call that a day. Just talking, and we didn't like it. But I thought it was necessary to let them understand why they were being spanked and why 3 and not 4 or whatever have you. And it took away the rage from me. And they saw that they were being punished not because Dad was mad, but because we did something wrong. Let me say that over. If your kids' punishment or discipline comes over as mom is mad or dad is mad, you have not disciplined the kid. You have just created more rebellion. So if you're getting flustered and you're carrying on, it doesn't help. So that is why we talk to them and we pray with them before spanking them and stuff, so that they will understand it is because of what you did.
Okay, so I just have a few things, not in importance, but because they're all important anyway. So repetition, right? It takes time for behavior to stop, but you have to repeat all the time that whatever the child is doing, that they need to correct it. So go ahead.
Somebody repeat for me what Cynthia just said and tell me what you understand by what she just said. That repetition is important. Right? He put it in the other way.
It takes time
for behavior to develop, and it also takes time for behavior to change. So, if you want a battle today, hallelujah, don't rest on that. The kid may go back tomorrow and do the same thing. So you have to repeat. Consistency. You'll see what we said about consistency.
Right, yeah. And sometimes with some children, if you want a certain behavior to stop, it could take 3-4 months, but don't give up. And seriously, it could take 3-4 months, but do not give up, in being consistent in what you're telling them to do. With some children, 1 month. With others, 2 weeks, right? And, and working with children, I've seen these things all the time. Like a child getting up from a cot during nap time. Everybody's sleeping, and that child wants to get up from his cot and just run around and disturb everybody. And you have to keep putting them back on the bed, go back on the bed, go back. And I've done this like 3-4 months, just doing that with a child every day, Monday to Friday. Go back on during nap time, go back on your cot, go back on your cut. And they get up 4, 5 times, 6 times, 7 times before they settle down for that particular day. And then after about 5 months, you just see that they never get up from the cut again. So it takes time, and you just have to be patient, whatever the behavior it is. And you want it to stop, just continue doing what you have to do. You know, put them to sit, put them to sit, put them to do the right thing, put them to do the right thing, and then just one day it would just stop. And some children, as I say, 2 days, some children 1 week, some children you just had to talk to them twice, and they never do it again.
Train up a child in the way you should go, like I said, according to their temperament, their nature. Some kids are compliant, other kids you have to keep doing it. But the reward, my beloved, is that as they grow older, they are more in line with what you would like them to be and do. They have learned discipline, and you don't have the headache of going to your son's school or your daughter's school every weekend because the teacher's calling for bad behavior. That's the value of being consistent now when they're small.
So the other thing was consistency, which we already talked about. So redirect. So instead of shouting and hitting, distract them with something else. In Zahire's case, we are in church, and it's hard to distract him from going to the drum. And the only reason I say he can't go to the drum because you wouldn't be able to take it if he goes to the drum. You wouldn't be able to take the noise and the cymbals, and even while we are speaking. That can't happen, right? So when children want to do a certain thing, sometimes it's better to distract them from doing what they're doing. Give them a toy or lead them to something that they enjoy and distract them instead of having to get angry and hitting or shouting. Yes? Redirect.
My question is, when do you decide that I'm not going to redirect and that I said no, so you just need to learn to just not, that it's just no?
Well, sometimes you use both redirection and saying no. It depends on what the behavior is. You know, it depends on what the behavior is.
I learned this lesson the hard way, and sometimes parental pride, the I'm the boss, causes us to sometimes say no, and that's it, right? Sometimes it's just a case of I'm the boss. But forgetting that the child has a personality, and just as an adult, sometimes you want something, and you wouldn't like somebody to simply tell you no, right? Without an explanation. So redirection avoids a conflict. Let me say that, please. Redirection avoids a conflict and rebellion. Just as for adults, it is when, I guess, in a situation like, say, maybe today, but the child has been rebellious, that you may have to say, look, I said no. But that should never be the first action. I'm the boss. And I guess part of what we're saying is respecting children as human beings helps a lot.
And you've seen it displayed here this evening, right? How many times he got up and wanted to get, And this has been all morning, wanting to go there.
Avoidance of what I don't remember exactly what you said. To avoid the being angry, you can talk it out.
Yeah.
I remember in Kenya we used to have in a town the cinema, we call cinema, which is brought once a month. Entertainment,
Right.
that is the entertainment, and it is usually at night. And is done, but thereafter, those who go there sometimes, the teenagers, they can become rowdy, and that is a chance they go to live whatever they want, and a rebellious life. And there is this mama who knows, yes, teenagers, and even if he says don't go, they will wait and go. Because it starts at 9 and can go over up to past midnight. So by the time they go to sleep, they can sneak out. So they open their windows because they open when the mother can hear. And the mother now understands this is what they do. And teaches them, whatever you do without prayer, there is a risk. Now, today is a cinema day. What you can do, I know instead of you sneaking and fall down, perhaps there is something you didn't know that can hit you. Open the door. Go. I am going to sleep. Don't leave my door open until morning. So let us pray. First, we eat, let us pray. If you choose to go, fine. Don't leave my door open. You can lock and go and come back with the key. Don't sleep out. Don't mess. I'm not saying you go. But I'm telling you, if you go, there are consequences. It is not from me.
Wait.
Okay, let us pray.
No, I want to clarify something here. It sounds like a double message, like you're telling the kid go, but telling them there's consequences. I'm not sure.
Yeah, that's what he's saying.
But if I'm telling you go,
The consequences of going, not when you come, I'll punish you, because I've already told you don't go. But if you choose to go, you get anything, no problem. The only problem I have with you, you left my door open till morning if you go and overstay. If you come, if you decide to go, just go, make sure that, but if, because the toilets are out, if I go and I found that you have locked my door, you have locked me in, then I don't know what I can say. So let us pray.
And did the behavior stop?
no, that sounds like a teenager, right?
As a teenager, he's
Those are the teenagers.
Yeah,
Teenagers.
at teenage
house.
level, you're right. At the teenage level, we work differently. That's the way you deal with a teenager.
yeah.
You spurting loud, you give them a condition and stuff. And if it's a case where you really don't want them to go because it violates your Christian principles or something like that, you may have to say, okay, this is what we're going to do. And a child, if they have learned to respect you by this time,
Would not
they would not.
Yeah.
If it were those things where you don't think it's the best thing, but they want to, and after you have talked about it, and they choose to, right, then you give your blessing as you just did. God himself did that with Israel. He said, I don't want you to have a king, but since you asked for a king, I'll give you a king. But here's what you should do to be sure you have a good king. So he tried to help them make the best of a bad situation. And sometimes it's a bad situation. You can't do anything but pay the price as you're saying. But at least as a parent, you are removing rebellion and conflict so that when the kid gets into trouble, they know where they can go. Right, sis? And many times, our teenage children go from deeper to deeper trouble because they never know they can go home because they believe mommy or daddy is angry with them. And so just something she want to share, but let me just talk about a friend of mine. His daughter got pregnant, a pastor. And she felt she couldn't tell him. So she killed the baby. Right? When the baby was born, she was in church like this a Sabbath. When she started in labor pain, and she said, Dad, I want to go home and I'm not feeling well. He, poor guy, I don't know how he didn't realize the baby belly was big, but she would band her belly down so it wouldn't show. Some sisters in the church kind of detected, like, Pastor, your daughter, poor, nah, she's not, but she was. Anyway, she went home, and when the baby was born, she slit the throat, tied up the baby in a garbage bag to throw it in a dumpster. But then she had lost so much blood, she fainted, right, in the house, and she squealed out. So when he went upstairs, he saw his daughter on the ground, and he rushed to the hospital. So while he's at the hospital, the doctor comes out and says, where's the baby? He says, what baby? He said, your daughter just had a baby. And then they rushed back to the house and they found the baby in the garbage bag in the toilet, at the side of the toilet. They arrested her. She was going to get the death penalty. He had to plead with the judge. It was a lot of anguish. And they gave her 8 years instead because the judge said, because of your father, we're not giving you the full penalty. We could see he loves you, that you're not really a bad girl. Why do I mention this? Had she known, because he told me, he said, man, why did she tell me? We could have worked something out. Had she known, she could have gone to her dad. It would have avoided her almost getting killed in the electric chair and spending time in jail. So I like what you said. If your teenager wants to do something that you don't think they should, maybe it's a girlfriend or a boyfriend, and you talk to them, you put certain parameters of behavior, it should be in such a way that the child knows you're not angry with them, but you're just warning them of their consequences and that they can always come home because you'll always love them and help them. That's what God does for us.
And that's like the story of the prodigal son as well.
Yes.
Okay, listen to your children, even if you, and I'm talking about younger children, well, older ones too, but even when they're like 2 or 1, they're trying to talk, you know, listen to them, even if you do not understand what they are saying, engage in the conversation, right? Especially with 2-year-old, 3-year-old children trying to talk to you, tell you something, you might just brush them off because they're little, but listen to what they're saying and try to engage in, you know, really, yeah, and ask questions as well so that they'll know that you're interested in what they're saying.
That sounds good because it's telling the child that they have your ear, that you're not ignoring them. Because they have something big to tell you. And you have no clue what they're saying. But they know they want to tell you something. So when you're listening, oh yes, really, and stuff, it tells them, I have a listening ear. It's creating a bond that oftentimes, as parents, we ask ourselves, why did my daughter didn't tell me this? Why didn't my son tell me he was going through this? Many times we feel hurt. Why didn't our children come to us? Because they never felt they could come to us, because so many times we brushed them off, we ignored them.
Yeah. Also be funny, and children love when we are funny. So, I mean, work and everything else, you know, have us all serious all the time, that we can't even make a joke with the children or laugh with them and do funny things with them. So be funny sometimes, that children see that side of you. I know in early childhood education, that's like a big thing. Like a child might be crying or, you know, they're acting up and you do something funny, right? Yeah, you do something funny with them. Then suddenly they start to laugh, and it's like redirecting to, they start to laugh with you and stuff. So show your children that you have a funny or jovial side of you.
It isn't always about a power struggle. As I've grown older, I realize many of the conflicts we have with our children is from a power struggle perspective. I'm the boss, what I say goes. And what Cynthia's suggesting to us as parents is sometimes to come down to the kids' level. It doesn't have to always be a power struggle. Laugh, be funny. Diffuse an argument before it begins.
Okay, and respect. I think you spoke about that this morning. Give them time to complete a task instead of just stopping it right away, because a child might be doing something fun, and this is for teenagers too. Even you as an adult, you're enjoying something and somebody just come and stop it right away, or take off the TV as you were saying, or take off the music, or just stop you from doing something that you enjoy without even saying, okay, I'm giving you 5 more minutes, right? And even children at 2, they might not know what 5 minutes, they don't know what is 5 minutes, 3 or 4-year-old 5. They don't know what is 5 minutes or 10 minutes, but they have an idea that you're giving them time to stop something, to stop playing, to stop watching TV, stop doing whatever, right? And then you can even count down. Okay, 2 more minutes, 1 more minute, you know? And so when you do that, it's easier for them to just stop when it's time to stop than you just stop them right away. Then you get the crying and the carrying
Yes.
on and the, yeah,
But the
and the
two,
behavior.
but don't give 5 minutes if the show ends in 10. If you get me, because that's just creating more anxiety. And Cynthia's so right. Sometimes I'm watching a show and that's when she wants to talk to me, and of course I can't pay attention, and so sometimes she gets upset. I'm talking to you, and I'm trying to listen because I want to be a good husband, but at the same time I'm enjoying my show. So if as an adult, I get a little ticked off if I'm trying to look at a show or do something and you're coming to at this moment to have my attention. Think about a child. Let us remember children are human beings. They have feelings.
But in that case, it would be nice to say, oh, I have 10 more minutes with this show. So we'll talk right after. Yeah, I can understand that, right? But even if it's you tell them 5 and the show ends in 10, you can still don't know that because they don't know time.
No, the
Right,
point
so-
is, I'm watching a whatever the show might be, Paw Patrol, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And in 5 minutes is when the show is really happening. And you bring them away. That's what I meant. So they may not know
Okay.
5 minutes, but you should bear that in mind.
Okay. So greet your children when you meet them first. And you mentioned that this morning already. Like you come into a room and you see your children, you could say, hi, how you all doing? How was your day? You know, and not, if they don't greet you when you walk in, you carry on about that. You didn't see me walk into the room and you didn't say anything. You know what? Disrespect. So when you are the one who should be saying, well, hi, how you doing? How was your day? You walked in and you met them there. I remember one minute.
Yes.
I remember my sister-in-law with my daughters, right? And I had to stand up for them. She came at our home. And usually when we get up and we meet anybody in the room, we say good morning. That's our culture, right? So you go in, you get up from bed, you go downstairs, you meet your mom, your dad. You say good morning to them. Or anybody, if they're visiting, you say good morning to them. And they reply. Anywhere we go and we meet people, you say good morning. That's how Trinidadians are, right? So my sister-in-law came to our home, and she came down. She's a Trinidadian, and she knows that. But she came down because they are children. She didn't say anything to them. Came downstairs. She didn't say anything to them. And then she shouted at them that they didn't say good morning to her. And I was around, and I said, no. I said, you came and you met them there. You should not in front of them. I told
But
her.
I'm an adult. I'm an adult. She said,
Yes.
but I'm an adult.
She
And
said
Cynthia
she's
said
an
no.
adult. She's an adult, and they should be greeting her, not she greeting them. And I say it doesn't work that way. If you want to teach them respect, you have to have respect for them.
Amen. Hallelujah.
You saw them, you say good morning to them if you want to teach them respect, right? And then she understood that. She understood that, and she never did it. You know, she spent many vacations by us, and she understand what I was telling her. Yeah.
My bro-
Someone had their hand up.
My question is, this teaching is more tailored to little kids. What advice will you have for those parents where the train already left the station?
Yes.
The
Yes.
kids are of age, they're now young adults, but there are some certain things probably you never taught them growing up, because we also say the society teaches them some things you didn't teach them. And then you want to correct, besides the advisory nature of you talking, remember the kingship is gone because they are of age now. So how do you navigate that space?
And like how you say, the train already left the station, because it has, you know, when we're talking about these things now, because this is the time when children, from the time they are born, and you see certain temperaments and stuff, you have to take care of it, right? And that's why we are talking about like early childhood, because that's where all the training and everything has to be done. Because they say a child learn in how many years?
at 3, a child has
Yes.
learned about 60% of what they learn or more. By 5, the personality is already kind of shaped. By 7, it is fixed. By 12,
Yeah.
the train has already
In fact-
almost reached where it's going.
In fact, it's a toddler, which is like up to the 2 years, going into 3 years old, learn and sometimes I and all can't even believe it because it sounds so impossible that a toddler, 2, 3 years, learn everything in life at that age that they need to know. So that means they're whatever you teach them in those early years is set for life. Anything after that is just prayer, right? And Ellen White says up to 7 years old. So if it's young adults and you try your best and they're doing certain things, all I can say is that you just have to talk to them, remind them of dangers, of things that they might be doing, what could come out of what they are doing, the dangers that could happen, and just pray.
And it depends on the relationship that you develop with that child, who is now an adult or maybe a late teenager. You will have lost your ability to get their ears, depending on what you did earlier on. And as I suggested this morning, some heartfelt conversations may be the key. To confess, apologize for your mistakes, and let them know that now when you speak to them, you're speaking as a friend, someone who still cares, who would like to help them avoid some of the mistakes that you made in life, etc. But definitely, your authority as a parent has already been eroded if it wasn't established earlier on. A couple of weeks ago, my youngest daughter called me. I felt proud anyway, because she called me, Dad, I need to talk to you. And she had this issue going on, and she talked, and I shared my counsel with her and stuff, and she said, thank you, Dad, I knew you would talk me off the ledge. And actually, she was with one of her friends right there who was listening on to the conversation. That means she had great confidence that whatever she was going to tell me, my response would be something her friend could hear. And her friend was laughing in the background. But what I felt good when she said, I knew you could talk me off the ledge. And thanks a lot, Dad, I said, wow. Obviously, the relationship that we had developed in the earlier years, when she was a child, allowed her now as an independent adult to think I could call my dad and ask for advice. Even if she doesn't take it. But at least I could talk her off the ledge enough to reconsider. So your question has a lot to do with the nature of the relationship you had. If it was an authoritarian relationship where I am the boss, you do what I say, prayer is all that could work, and pray that some really nice person come into their life to help them where you have failed.
I think we can also ask, what they think of you as a father at this stage. Since they are all adults now, you can ask that child, what do you think of me as a father? To start a conversation, right? And hear what they think. They might bring up things that you probably did when they were younger that they didn't like, and apologize, and just to form a new kind of relationship.
I like that, a new kind of relationship.
I like the family time. We try, even though our children are adults, we try to have family time together. Say we go on vacation once in a while together, and so do things like that to restore whatever was lost.
Yeah.
This was also on the premise that as adults, we grew up in a different generation, a different era. The generation they've grown up in, they kind of feel that they kind of understand more than you. Technically, it's not the case, but they are more exposed to other things more than you were at your time in their age now. So that is where at least, you can give the advisory, but they still feel that they know a little better than you do.
True.
And I guess you have to respect that as well.
You have to respect the fact that they know more, but Like I told my son once, there is no way in 20 years you could know what I know in 40 years. Life-wise. Now, brain-wise, yes, you could go and study and all these things, but experience doesn't come but by experience. So that will always be an edge a parent has over a child.
Experience.
But you have to respect the kid's mind and what they know and listen. So yes, they will always believe that you're from an old stage
School.
and that you need to listen to us. Because when I was growing up, you never called somebody home at 10 p.m. I don't know what it was like in Kenya. But 10 p.m. was considered late to call somebody. Worse yet, if it's a girlfriend or boyfriend, right? You didn't call at 10. So I remember chatting my daughter when Sammy, I think, called around that or whatever. And she said, Dad, this is not in Trinidad. This is not back then. You could call any time. I still don't believe that. But the point I'm making is things have changed, and we have to admit that.
Yeah, my question is, I believe sometimes you can raise the kids the way you want, but don't you think sometimes peer pressure can make the children, when they reach a certain age and they join different groups, they go to college and they meet different people, can that also influence the way they're going to act and behave? However, you brought them the way you wanted, but now the peer pressure and groups can influence their behavior too.
Train up a child in the way he should go. It means that even with the peer pressure, they may shift, but the foundation that has been laid brings them back. But again, the Bible tells me that Daniel, right, made up his mind when he got to Babylon, he wouldn't eat from the king's table. So there are some people who have the kind of strength of will not to be influenced by peer pressure. So maybe a good thing, as you mentioned this, is as you're growing up, begin to nurture in them a sense of independence, right? So they won't respond so readily to peer pressure. Because all of us follow peer pressure. Here's an example. It's church time, right? And you were falling asleep on the preacher, right? And then he makes a call at the end. For all who want to follow Jesus Christ, to give their life, should stand up. And at that moment, you wake up and you see everybody standing up. Right? No. No, even though you didn't hear the call, you didn't even know what the call is about, I see everybody, the deacon, I'm an elder, you stand up. That's peer pressure. That's peer pressure. So I guess what I'm saying, we all fall, but at that deep level, we know we can't afford to go that way. So if you develop your child a sense of confidence, a sense I could always talk to mommy and daddy if I have a situation, when that peer pressure comes, you're probably likely to have them calling you or remembering. But if they do fall because that girl was really pretty, that guy was really so handsome, and I really wanted to be in the in group, and they shift, if that foundation was well laid, it will keep them and bring them back.
Yeah, I believe so. Any other questions?
I see. Yeah.
What I want to add on top of that is, I think what you preached early in the day was more of teaching the children the way you wanted them to be. But the perspective you brought up was very important, that the goal here is when they are at that age of influence and peer pressure, they can have a self-control element. And I think that is more important, as whatever you are doing as a parent, whatever I'm doing as a parent, when, as my brother said here, when the train has left the station, they can be able to control themselves wherever they are.
Yes.
Yeah, very true. And then all that self-control starts from a baby. And we might think baby is 1 year old, 2 year old, they're too small to help them to control themselves. But you have to start there. That's where the self-control starts,
To self-soothe at that
Yeah,
age and then
self-soothe.
build.
Because a lot of times, like when a child reaches like 3 years old and they can't self-soothe, that's a problem. You have to be able to, all that is the self-control. So it starts really early.
Do you know what we mean by self-soothe?
Yeah.
Huh? She said she doesn't know what we
Or
mean by.
like when a child is crying and, okay, like they just probably somebody hit them like that, right? Wasn't even really hard, but they start to cry and cry and cry. And you're like, okay, everything is all right now. It was just it's a little touching. And can't minimize things to children too. If somebody hit a child, don't say, that was just a little hit. Or they fall, that was just a little fall. That's just a little cut. Do not minimize what is happening to them, right? Because they get even more upset with that, with you when you do that. So you show compassion and all that. But self-soothe is being able to stop yourself, right? When the pain is gone and the thing is done, some children, somebody tell them something and they cry. You put the child in quiet time to think about their behavior, and they're still crying. They see the child crying while sitting there, and they still want to continue crying and not stop themselves.
Have you ever seen a baby maybe nursing the mom and the breast falls out of the baby mouth and they start to cry? And you try, and after that, even when they put them back, they're still crying.
Yeah.
That's a big danger sign. Or the bottle fell from the mouth or something, and the child just start to scream, and you shake them, and you give them the bottle again, and they don't want it because they're so mad. That's what we mean by self-soothe, where the child has no sense of the range of emotions. Everything is a big thing, and nothing allows that child to calm down. It takes a long time, and that already, if you have a kid like that, I'm telling you now, start preparing your psychiatry money, your psychologist money.
Yeah, but you could help them though. You could because you can help them from early to stop that kind of behavior. Yeah. Something had to be really psychologically wrong, but you have to try and help the child to soothe themselves and to stop crying, because it's over now. Just calm yourself, Even if you put on music, they're still crying. You have to teach them, and you have to teach them. Don't think they're too small. You have to teach them to stop.
Okay, take you now, sis. Most of our problems stem from a lack of self-value, like the peer pressure and stuff. Many of us, if we knew we had someone we could always go to who has our back, it keeps us. And that begins with us as parents, what we tell children, how we discipline them. If we slap them, if we use harsh words, as Cynthia was speaking about, we are already telling that child negative images about themselves that prevent them from feeling comfortable and confident. Sis?
I just wanted to add on to what our mom or sister said about us who have children that have gone. I think I like what you said, that you would ask them, what do you think of me as a father or a mother? Yeah. And I think that's what I did with my dad. I have a 23-year-old, and I thought I was the best mother ever. And so when I had to sit down with her, I'm like, what is going on? And then she told me so much. I was so surprised. I'm like, I don't know how many times I had to say sorry. I'm like, I didn't know I came out that way. I didn't know that thing upset you that much. I didn't know. So, and also to humble yourself and apologize. Yeah. Yeah, because that has brought me and my daughter so close.
Hallelujah.
Now that we are like the best friends now, because I'm like, and honestly, if she was able to verbalize to me some of the things she told me, I would have done them differently. But there was also this fear that if I tell her, maybe she will not accept it. But I think that's a good way of reconnecting and trying to make sure that, maybe there was missing information, assumptions that were made, and also not to talk down to them. And I also wanted to say that these teachings that we teach our children when they are younger, even though they can go away, deep down in their heart, they know what is the right thing to do. They could try, go wherever, but when all is said and done, they'll come down to what mom and dad taught them when they were growing up.
Well said, sister. Amen. Yeah. Well said. And I love that word you used about your relationship with your daughter. We have become friends. You know you have done a good job as a parent when your children can become your friends. When you can sit and talk as adults. And the respect is still there for you as a parent. But there's a level of intimacy you can talk at. You know you have done a good job when you can become friends with your kids.
And friends when you are adults. Not friends when you are children. Okay. Some parents, some moms, say, my child is my friend,
My best friend.
They're like best friend. 13, 14, what? Your best friend? No. You're a mother still. Like 7-year-old is your best friend? Come on. You are their parent and you should parent them. It has no friendship there. When you become adults, that's a different thing.
True.
And then the other thing is name calling, right? As we're talking about this, like a lot of parents call their children names when they're young. Foolish, stupid, so ignorant, head big, whatever, because you're mad about something that they did, right? So no name calling. That was part of our rule in our house.
No name calling.
No name calling, right? And so I've never heard my children call, I don't know if they did it behind our back or whatever, but call each other stupid or ugly or nothing like that, right? Once I slip up though, I had to confess because my youngest daughter, well, she was into sports, so she ate a lot. But then I had told her to sit at the table and eat her spaghetti, right? And she still got up and walked with the plate of spaghetti and dropped it on the carpet with all the sauce and everything. And I got mad and I said, and that's why your belly is like a pot. She never forgot that. She was just about, maybe 10 or so. And she never forgot that thing.
She still mentions it now.
She talks about it all the time. I say, I know, forgive me. And I had asked for forgiveness a long time ago, always. That I should have never said that. The rule was no name calling. And that was like name calling. Your belly's like a pot, And so that was like a big mistake that I regret that I ever said to her.
Yes.
So children, when you call children names, they actually grow up feeling that they're dumb, they're stupid, they're ugly, and all of that. So parents, no matter how tired you are, no matter how mad you are, aggravated with your children, please don't call them names.
Yes.
Because they verbalize that, they live with it for the rest of their lives.
If you haven't heard your child tell you they hate living home once, then perhaps you're not doing a good job as a parent. Let me explain what I mean. During the teenage years, especially when a child is starting to find their own identity, to decide, do I really want to be a Seventh Adventist? Do I really want to embrace my African culture? Whatever it is, that's a tense time, that transition. And there are times when you have to say no. There are times when you have to put your foot down, so to speak. And the kid could get angry and upset. I hate this house. You see, I could barely wait till when I get 18, I'm out of here, that kind of stuff. If you've never heard that, and that would be great if you never did. But I'm saying that for those parents who want to be their children's friend, because there are times when you will not be a child's friend. There are times when even as a loving, kind parent, and you have to pull the reins, the child, who by this time is 13, 14, may be upset. And you have to be brave enough to be a parent and not a friend. When you are 50 and your son is 30, or 28, then you could be friends. But when they're teenage years, I really question somebody who wants to make their young child their best friend. That tells me, I see a hand in the back.
Yeah, for teenagers, I think what has worked best for me, I think it's getting to know who your child is. That is very, very important. And how to address issues with this child. Because sometimes it's not textbook. Your experience as a teenage parent might not be the same here. So if you know your child very well and what works for them, that takes care of everything. There's some children, you will talk, try to bring them together, and they will, 1 year goes and it's just the same issues. And there are some children you can sit and reason with them, and they will see where the problem is. And there's some children that you will have to let them experience what they want, because at the end of the day, they don't want to listen to what you're telling them. So knowing your child very well and also trying to be their friend, trying to see where they're coming from, really works out well. I happen to be a Pathfinder director in this church. My child is, he's a teenager at the same time. What I found that works well with these children sometimes, I'm not their parent, but what sometimes is letting them get to, sometimes I get really angry with them, really angry, like I'm like, oh my goodness. But what I've come to find out that works well is getting to understand them. Sometimes what they do is really, really upsetting, but when I call them to and talk to them, I was like, okay, I know you were upset, or you were, when I was talking, you were doing this. Can you tell me what you're going through? Can you tell? So once I get to understand them, even my own child, once I sit down and listen to them, already now I know what tricks work with my child. So I know how to, because he has taught me how to parent him. So I know how to parent him because I have learned what works best for him.
Right.
And these other children that are now with me, I talk to them. I'm like, okay, let's have a one-on-one talk. What was going on when I was saying this? How do you want us to go on forward? And I let them figure out the solution. And when they talk back to me, like when we are talking back, then that's the time I can advise, okay, I know you want to do this, I know you don't like when I'm doing this, or this is how I want us to go forward. So the best thing to me that has worked is to understand this child, because sometimes some other things, like you said, traumas or other experiences could cause them to behave the way they want to behave because nobody's understanding them.
True.
Yeah.
That could only happen at the teenage level.
Yes, I'm saying a teenager.
If you've placed a good foundation earlier on, and that's what we're trying to really drive home. That kind of experience where you could talk to a teenage child, where they will come to you, doesn't just happen. It is nurtured in the young 1, 2, 3, 4, 5-year-old. And if nothing else sticks with you, if in all that we are saying and we have talked, this comes, I am preparing my child now so that later on, when there is no one to beat it in or beat it out, when they are on their own, they have self-control, they understand who they are because of what I've laid the foundation, then this would have been a very worthwhile session. You have a few more things?
Yeah, and that's what you were saying is you could only do that when you spend time. Spending time with the children so that you get to know them. Showing affection, kindness, concern for them, praising for good efforts, saying, oh, that's a good job, and not only waiting until they do something wrong to pinpoint what they are doing wrong,
Yeah,
but always show, that, yeah, I see that you're doing right, a nice thing there. You're helping to wash the dishes, clean the house, whatever. So praise them for things like that when they do it, and not only when.
But do we praise the child, or do we praise what the child did?
You praise what the child did.
Right. So in other words, you don't want the child to grow up feeling I'm special, I'm the king of the, I'm the greatest thing in the world. But unfortunately, most of us learned negative parenting. Negative parenting means I'm only dealing with you when you do something wrong. I'm only correcting bad behavior, but I don't encourage good behavior. In all honesty, how many of us could honestly say that we've been always willing to praise, congratulate, and reward our children for good behavior? And as rarely as we punish them for bad behavior. I remember when the kids were small, and I realized trying to help them with their homework so that they would bring home good grades, I decided to try this. I can't remember if it was $1 for every A or $5. Whatever it was, I offered $1 for every A they would bring home. You know, that took away a lot of the do your homework. You know, nobody else said, go do your homework. You should be doing, knowing that they're going to get money. It cost me money because they started bringing home A's, But I was glad for that. And our children always did well academically. But the point is this. I realized what is wrong if as a parent, I reward a child, I encourage a child by encouraging good behavior through a reward rather than discouraging bad behavior through punishment. Think about it. All of us go to work here. I'm sure most of us don't go to work because we love our job and we love our boss. We go to work because at the end of the month or the end of the 2 weeks, there's money coming in. And some of us, we hate our job, but we go and we try to do a good job because we want to get that salary. So if I go to work because I want to be paid, and I will leave this job that I like to go to that job over there because they're offering me more money, what makes you think it is wrong, therefore, to encourage your child to do good in school or to keep their room clean with a reward? Like if when I come on a Friday evening from work, this room is clean and I don't have to be coming home to fix anything for Sabbath, I give you $5. Of course, now $5 probably isn't much, right? But you get my point. What's wrong in doing that? And so the child has a motivation, an incentive. It doesn't always have to be a power struggle to parent a child.
Hello? Yeah, I have one point that you guys said that I agree with. There's something with the consistency. I've learned through my children. There's so much you learn through your children. And what I've noticed, they know when I'm consistent with things. And they kind of bend when I'm not consistent. So, for example, I have 2 daughters right now. They finished school. They're home with me now. But their bathroom is what I always like. This bathroom has to be clean. Talk. And then till I said, now I'll be on top of this every Sunday, thorough cleaning. And I have to watch, and I'm consistent. If Sunday reach, the other one tell me, it was the other person. Did you go check the bathroom if it's cleaned? So I did that for a while, for a period of time. And now they do it without even me asking, but I have to reward them. I always say, I'm very happy with what I see in your bathroom. It's clean every time I go there. But in the beginning, it was a struggle. Then consistency came in. And then now I have to praise them for what they're doing. So I feel like that really worked for me.
Amen. So Cynthia, if one of these parents was saying, look, I am dying as a parent and I want to just send this kid back, help me here. Tell me something workable for my kids right now. What would you give us, like some essential tips for a parent now who's saying, I'm struggling, I really need to know how to work with my kid. I have a child with special needs and I don't know what to do.
Well,
Especially special needs.
I know a lot of parents who have special needs. Children let them get away with a lot of stuff, behavior-wise, right? And they feel like, okay, they have special needs, so autism, and so I'll just let them run about, do whatever they please, but no. You should do the same kind of training as far as possible. They are the ones who need that firmness, and guidance and encouragement.
So you tell me, if the child wants to just run up on the pulpit or just squeal and jump, I shouldn't be compassionate because they have special needs?
Well, you could be compassionate, but that doesn't mean to say that you leave them to run up on the pulpit or run around the church because they have special needs. You're supposed to stop them. When they're in school, right, they are not allowed, they don't get away with everything that they do. And that's why they go to school, to teach them, balance and self-discipline. So not because the child has special needs, it means that they could do whatever they want. You are supposed to train them still and be firm with them.
How can this impact the family? If that special need, what tends to be the impact on the family life?
Well, I know I have a co-worker who has a special needs sister who's in her late 20s. I know it has been really hard for them, and they don't want to put her in a group home. So they have been taking care of her, and she has been breaking up things in the house, running away, and they have to go and find her, and it has been really difficult on the whole family. So even when the mom and dad want to go on a vacation, they have to ask the bigger sisters to stay with her, just to get a break, because, sometimes they get just sick taking care of her, but they don't want, people to take advantage of her in a group home, so they take care of her. But it really, it can pull a family apart. And I've seen where husbands walk out because they have children with special needs because they can't handle it. And that's why I say even when they have special needs and they're little, the same firmness and everything applies. You need to teach them that self-control.
Even more consistent.
More consistent. You have to teach them self-control. You can't just leave them to do whatever.
Yes.
And we have a friend with a son who has autism, and if it wasn't for the dad who really taught him discipline, because he would have been like, I don't know how he would be today. Now he's such like a quiet, loving boy. He's 25, I think now, about 25. And he's such like a loving, self-disciplined boy. But before, he would be running when he was like 3 and stuff, running out in the road. The parents had such a hard time, and the mom was like pulling out her hair and would hit him and stuff because, he was so out of control and she couldn't handle it. And the dad decided he was going to pull the strain on him, the reins on him, and teach him self-discipline, self-control. And if it wasn't for that dad who did that, I don't know how he would have been today.
So if it worked for for the child that is in not special needs, it will also work for that child, because the other children feel jealous too, because this one is getting away
and they tried,
with everything, and we get punished. So they begin to become resentful as well. So we got to be careful of that. So we have consistency keeps coming up. You realize that? Consistency keeps coming up. You got to stay with it. It will pay off in the long run. It is hard work sometimes. You don't want to. And this will be what both parents should work together. If you realize your wife is really tired, or your husband, then you step in. You take over. But consistency. Brethren, we couldn't say it more. Whatever the rules are in the home, be consistent in enforcing them. Any other thing?
Male parenting is not for cowards. So you can't be afraid of your children or how they will react to anything you say to them or when you correct them. Because I've seen it even with the children in our child care center. The parents behave as though they are afraid of these little children. They let them control them. The children are like the parent. They're telling the parents what they want to do. And they are listening, and afraid to touch them, and I don't know what is happening, but you can't, it's not for cowards. And if you really want your children to grow up to be good citizens of this world, which is what I tell my students, the children in my child care center, you have to grow up to be good citizens of this world. We have too many bad people in this world for you to be one of them. Do you want to be a bad person in this world? And of course they say no, and they would listen, you know? And that is what we're teaching them, to be good citizens in this world and for the kingdom of God. That's why God gave us these children, not to let them do whatever they please and just, you know, it's for us to guide them, to encourage them, to love them, and so that they'll be good citizens, as I said, in this kingdom here on earth and in the one to come.
I know I feel happy when my kids say they love me and they smile, and if they seem upset with me, I feel all, you know. And I know sometimes I want to ignore certain things because I don't want to see that sour face. And sometimes as parents, we are afraid for our children to say they don't love us, to be upset with us. We love when they love us, and they, oh, I have the best mommy, and we let things slide. But a good parent recognizes, I need to hold the reins. I need sometimes to face that I don't love you, I'm sad, I'm angry, I hate you, mommy. And not get upset, of course, you the parent, if you would train your child right. So Cynthia is really so correct when you said, don't be afraid of the children. We can't be cowards, because sometimes we have to take firm action.
And just one other thing, you know, a lot of times things happen in church, or, you know, you might get upset with someone in church or even your own family, extended family, and you discuss these things in front of the children. And they hear you talking, the pastor bad, they hear you saying things about the elder or the member, and they hear you saying, because I've heard it so many times from children in the church, you know, mommy said so-and-so about sister so-and-so, or daddy was saying this and that. You can't afford to discuss things like that in front of the children, because then they'll be calling you hypocrites, you know? And then it's also teaching them to criticize others as well. So let us be careful about even our conversations at home and in front of our children.
Yes, because children learn what they live. We've heard that before. We model what we want. And if you are smiling, hi, my lovely sister, mama, and when you get home, you're rolling the eye and stuff, they are seeing that and learning not to trust you. It's a deep internal trust that when you tell good job, that they may not even be sure because they've seen you tell somebody, oh, that was a lovely song, and you're like, can't sing, you know? So that kind of hypocrisy affects children's ability to trust you. And they themselves develop that kind of attitude. Anything before we close off, Cint?
I mean, there's a lot more. If I took so many years to do early childhood education, you should know, right? It's so much more, but these are just like some pointers to help in some way.
Start the ball rolling, yes.
And especially to realize that it starts early. You can't wait until you reach 5 to start guiding and doing, you know, helping them along. It starts from infancy.
Make the rules few, simple, but once the rule is established and you know the child knows what the rule is, stick to your guns. Do not waver until that rule is no longer necessary and you change it. Then we change it in your family meeting, but do not make rules that you're not going to enforce. Don't give empty threats. Do not give empty threats. You know, it is teaching the child not to respect you.
And as the Bible says, stay away from provoking. I think you mentioned that this morning, provoking your children, because they would disrespect you when you do that.
Children are human beings. They have feelings. And it's kind of hard for us who grew up in the old school to embrace that. So let's suppose it's breakfast. And the child says, I don't want to eat Cheerios today. Or I don't want chapati. Back in the day, your mom would tell you, eat it or lay down beside it. Right? Well, the truth is, even at that age, your child is beginning to learn how to make choices. This is where respect comes in. If the child says, I don't like chapati, you will try to coax and say, well, try it. And if they say, no, I don't want today, respect it. Or they may want to wear the red shoe. So what? Except they have uniform. You will say, well, no, you know your school has a uniform. So you have to use the uniform, but when you're going out later, you could use the red shoe. But never give a child a choice and then deny the choice. What would you like for breakfast? Don't do that. If you know all you're going to give them is bread and ugali, then don't ask them what they want. So you have to respect the child's choice, because a child is a human being. Because say it over.
I was asking with the red shoes example where you're saying that if they have a uniform, that if they keep insisting to wear it, that you allow them to wear it and then just deal with the consequences at school of not being in the proper uniform?
If you're willing to let the child bear the consequences, yes. And only if, as you said afterward, the child kept insisting, right? Then yes. If my kids left their lunch at home, I would never take the lunch. No, I would never go and take their lunch for them. If they were really going to be hungry, they would not carry the lunch.
But that was after a couple times of reminding them to take their lunch. And one day, I think it was it Stephen or Sarah, one of them forgot their lunch bag at home. And this is over time telling them, you know, remember to take your bag or whatever. He decided that he wasn't going to take any lunch. He called home to bring the lunch, and he never dropped it off.
There are things like that where they must face the consequences of their behavior, and don't preach to them. Just let them feel the pain of what their behavior was. That's all the lesson they need. One more thing I forgot to mention this morning, and I must say it before we end. We talk too much as parents. You heard me? We talk too much. And oftentimes we miss the teaching moment because we step in. So you told the child, stop jumping off the chain. You could hurt yourself. You know, don't jump. And he jumped, badam, and hits his face. Then we'll come in. You see, I told you, you're so hard. And I told you, come here. And at that moment, the child no longer sees his action. He sees you. You've missed. But if when he falls, you just ignored it like if you didn't see. And if you go, Mommy, I'm so sorry. What happened? Oh, wow. I'm sorry to hear that, you know. And you, like, no big deal. The lesson registers in the child. But we have to talk and talk and talk. And we explain and explain. No. As long as the child has understood you and you know the child has understood you, there's no more need to talk. We talk too much. And so, again, in respecting a child and their choices, we allow them to face the consequences.
Yeah, and probably question them when you say, you see, you look for that. I tell you not to do it, and you did it, now you burst up your face. You look for that, you know, not to say things like that. But I say, yeah, I'm so sorry you hurt yourself like that, as you said. I'm so sorry you hurt yourself like that, you know. And then even with children like Zaya, keep going over there. You seen it in action, right? How many times? No matter what his mom did, take him back there, keeps walking back to that thing because he's insisting. And sometimes the best thing is not to say anything. You go and you remove him each time. Just remove him, just remove him, just remove him. You know? Oh, and we already told him, right, that when he gets home, he could play his drums. And that was set at the beginning. This is not yours. It's not ours. You can't play it. When you get home, you're going to play your drum. You have to stick. That's being consistent. You have to stick with that.
And as much as I'm tempted
to let
him go and play it, especially when you guys said, no big deal,
yeah,
we didn't. You know why? We already established you can't. And many times we let people, oh, that's no big deal. No, let them do it. After you have established this. So whenever they're in public, you know what they're going to do? They're going to always disregard your rules because they know.
Other people wouldn't come.
Yes. And so in trying to teach him, self-control to that degree. We have to hear him cry and know what he's going through. It's like me on work when they bring donuts, and I know I'm trying not to eat sugar for the month, and they bring donuts, and it's right there, and I'm smelling it in the office, and they're offering me, and I'm trying not to, and sometimes, sadly, oh Lord have mercy, sometimes I do give in, but when I don't, it's a torture. So I can imagine what he's going through, because he loved the drum. But again, what we're doing is teaching our children how to control themselves. That will come great in this future life. How many men, pastors, and people who didn't know how to control themselves in a given moment, and you stepped out on your wife, stepped out on your husband, you did that thing on the job you shouldn't do because you never learned to say no to yourself. That's the value of training up your child in the way he or she should go. When they are faced with life's challenges, they have a resource inside to say, I know what I should do. And I know what to do, and I will do it. That's the greatest gift you can give your child.
And I was going to say, I know it's painful for Kezia to stop him all the time like that. And it's hard. It's hard, right? In the beginning, it's hard. But then in the long run, it's worth it. It's worth it. Because things could get progressively worse. So it's worth it in the end.
I was just going to comment to say that, for parents sometimes with little children, like this is an accepting crowd, but sometimes if you're in an environment like the store where people might be staring at you, or you're in church where people are staring at you and you've already established the rule, it's easy to give in because you're embarrassed or you feel like everybody's staring at me, so you just let them do whatever they want to spare like people staring you or judging you or stuff like that.
And that's peer pressure.
That's peer pressure.
And so you know what you are working on and what you want to establish. So you can't even think about what people say that you should do. You know what it is you want to see in your child, and you want him to be disciplined, right? So don't let people pressure you into doing something that you know you shouldn't.
I was going to share the experience I had at a store with him where he kept crying a lot. And he knows he's supposed to stay in the cart. So I was like, nah, he has to stay in the cart. But a lady who worked at the store, like, exclaimed so loudly in front of everybody, like, oh, my goodness, like, oh, and started behaving that way and was looking at other people to confirm that he's such an inconvenience to everyone. And she kept on trying to insist it, like, and I remember how I felt in that moment, where I felt like I don't even want to go to the store anymore. I just left my cart. I left my cart with everything in it, and I left. So, like, how do you recommend dealing with those kinds of situations where you have to enforce your policy or your rule, but you don't want to inconvenience other people by hearing the child cry, or you also don't want to face like that embarrassment, I guess?
It's tough. There's no easy answer for that one. It's tough. I mean, we all go through that in certain circles, which is why you said something that I want to repeat. This is an accepting crowd. That is why a church needs to step up to help parents. Rather than giving that look, that look, to say, can I take him? Can I take her? Would you like me to? Why? Because it's a pressure for the person to be true to what they want to teach the child when a whole church is looking at you like you're the devil's plant in the church. And therefore, sometimes a mother needs a break. Sometimes just removing the kid. So what I'm saying is this. The principles that we are sharing here is for parents, but also as a church. Your acceptance, your willingness to sometimes not look at that mother in a certain way, to even take that child, to say maybe take a break, helps. It helps that the person doesn't break down and give in when they shouldn't. So thank you for being that kind of an audience. But at the same time, don't allow bad behavior. Most of us allow bad behavior because we don't want to get involved. So parents need to let it be known, like I did in the churches. I would say, look, don't come and tell me you saw my son or my daughter out there and he didn't do anything. Right? I can't see my child all the time. This is when they were getting older. So if you see them doing something wrong, you have the authority to tell them to stop. And if they don't listen, then they come to me. And I think as parents, we need to give our church leaders and members that sort of ability to live the African proverb, it takes a village to raise a child on the one hand, and the village needs to be compassionate and understanding on the other.
Yeah, like, I would have taken him out. And a lot of times when you're talking to children that small, you don't tower over them because you look like a giant over them trying to tell them what to do. So you get down at their level and you look them in the eye and say, I already told you that drum does not belong to me. It's not your daddy's. It's not your mommy's. It's not your grandparents'. It's not the church's drums. You have to wait until you get home to play that drum. Do you understand me? As firm as that, as small as he is, that's what you have to do. Get down to his level, watch him in the eye, and tell him that.
Yeah.
And a lot of times, children, right, they just stop the behavior.
And even when she gets down to my level and talks to me like that, I behave. Because because she has a way she looks at you and tell you. So yes, I understand that voice and that look in the eye, But children need that.
But seriously,
But children
yes,
need that.
That's how to deal with the situation.
Yes, firm, calm, and that looking at you at their level.
In their eyes.
Not too much talking like Cynthia. She's very just stops, and that gets it done. So again, my beloved, as Cynthia said earlier on, behavior takes time to change. It takes time to learn new behaviors. It takes time, even as parents, it will take time to learn. But at least let this be a Kickstarter. There are good books out there. You can talk to each other. Let this be a Kickstarter to begin the process. We are always available to come back in with specific issues that you need to help, but let it start today. It will take a while, but if it starts today, who knows what this church will look like next year, the kids and the homes, because as we get ready to end, I will say this much.
I was just going to say, and I'm glad you're a teenager, right? You're a teenager, that she's back there, because one day she'll be a parent, and you can use these same, sometimes we wait too late to do parenting or teach children, how to be a parent and what to do. And so she got all these tips, and I'm sure it would stick in her mind, some of them, so that when she gets old enough, right, to have her own family, she would have some ideas of what to do.
The happiness of a home is directly proportional to the behavior of the children. When there's a home where the children are out of control, it drains energy between husband and wife. You can't enjoy time together. You can't enjoy coming home from work and just relaxing. And so you end up staying and work longer because I can't take on that madhouse. I'm going to go to. A disciplined home is a happy home. And that translates to happy church too. Because the kids come in and they behave themselves, the parents are happy. And I never understood that until recently. My wife was talking about her school, that one parent asked if they were open on Christmas. Imagine that. So like they don't want to have any time with their own children. They just want to get them into the daycare. And then I thought, that's interesting. We used to long for snow days when the kids were small, where all of us are home. We used to love it. And I realized it was because they were well-behaved children. As kids, they would be kids, but in general, they were well-behaved and we enjoyed being together. It was a happy home, truly. And so, if you find yourself skipping out a time at home, when you get home, you just kind of lock off your mind and go into your room and stuff, it is because your home is not a happy home. Check it out and see if the children are well-behaved, because they will suck energy from you and then the relationship between you and your spouse. A happy home is a disciplined home. Let's work towards having happy homes. Amen.
Good evening. I hope we have enjoyed the session. And as a church, we thank you so much for spending your time with us and with your family and your grandson and your daughter and your son-in-law who left. So we thank you as a church, and we want to appreciate you so much. And your wife, this is a token of appreciation from the church as we reflect on the words that you have given us. So thank you so much, and we hope that you will come again, because you are connected with us now, like it or not.
I like it.
Now, before you leave, you're going to pray for us.
Let us stand, please. Happy the home when God is there and love fills every breast. When one their wish and one their prayer and one their heavenly rest. Lord, let us in our homes agree this blessed peace to gain. Unite our hearts in love to thee, and love to all will reign. Lord, this is our prayer. Happy homes, God-fearing homes, where love reigns. And we know that these principles of discipline will go a long way in producing this kind of home. So God, please help us in our homes to agree. In your precious name we pray. Amen.
Thank you so much, and have a good evening until next week.
And we want to thank everybody for staying with us. You have been a very good audience. Thank you. God bless you, and have a wonderful week. Amen. Amen.
Yes.